Now, what I want to do is, we're going to deal with a whole lot of mysteries here. The Europeans, for about the last 200 years, has hidden thousands upon thousands of secrets that came out of Africa in his lodges. And what we want to do is, that comes from ancient Kemet and ancient Africa, we want to unveil those mysteries and explain those to you. So some of this stuff gets a little heavy. White people that don't even argue with this. Number two, if it gets a little heavy where you think this is strange, man, and this is out of my head, let me tell you something. I can go and show you, and they know this stuff like this. You see what I'm saying? Don't even know the sun, don't even know the moon and the stars and all. We talk about it ever, we look this up there in the sky. You see, this vague type of thinking. So, number one, we kind of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and we bear witness to the fact that all my religion is different than yours. We're talking about religions. We just have a person with another culture, and comes in his culture, he explains the same God concept. So us being man and woman, we look at the actual customs and the culture, and we don't look at the meat from behind the customs and the culture that would actually explain that the religions are all one, or the one God, as they call it in Egypt, because they came from one source, Kemet, in Africa, and they are ours. So we don't need to even argue over them to see whether this one is bad or the same. You just have the different customs and the misconceptions that went on in the last few thousand years that brought us to all these different cut-up religions, and we all arguing over each other. And we can't get to the esoteric knowledge arguing over the exoteric knowledge. So we want to go inside of that door this time instead of just hanging around on the outside and philosophizing to make ourselves feel good. We want to go on the inside and get straight to the heart of the mysteries and the stuff that can actually liberate us. Now, mind you, if anybody has seen my lectures, I'm going to get this gum out of my mouth too. If anybody has seen my lectures, I don't just come and just, when you ask me a question on how are we going to get out of this stuff, I just don't give you no philosophy. I tell you actual scientific facts. Take it through. At this point in our junction with black people and black children dying, and see nobody to come to us and make us feel good. Give us some stuff to make us feel good, but it don't hold no water. I mean, it's cliches and it sounds good and it makes common sense, but it don't hold no water when it comes to our reality where we're going total fool over the last 5 or 6 years. We've gone mad. So therefore, we need a person with more solutions than just antics to make a person feel a certain way and get on this high, what we call intellectual masturbation. Intellectual liberation masturbation, where you're not actually producing anything. So we're going to deal with the direct sciences, and that's what we challenge. And unfortunately, truth is stranger than fiction. You see, we start off when we like to open the floor when we first start our lectures. We do this. We ask the oldest person in the room, whoever that one who want to take on that job or whatever, for permission to speak. I, as a younger brother, asked the oldest person in the room, or the elder, which in Africa it was looked on as a great achievement and almost a privilege to be an elder than it is now, where we shun all things like that. And also we asked the oldest person who want to take that responsibility for the permission to speak. Which one? Anybody just raise your hand and say, I give you permission to speak? Speak. Okay, good. The next thing we do is we invite the ancestors. Now, you say, oh, that's some devil worship you doing now because you invite the ancestors. No, but you weren't told something in the Sunday school class doesn't necessarily mean that it is not divine. You understand? When you look at Moses and Moses in the Bible, Jacob, Isaiah, Abraham, aren't those ancestors? Well, this is the same thing. Your ancestor is your lawyer on the higher that pleads your case while you are down here. That is your interconnecting link to the Godhood or the Godhead. You understand? So we always invite the ancestors to look over us in this critical hour when the beast, and if you know who the beast is, well, you'll know today, but I'm quite sure you know who the powers to be. When the beast is rolling and getting ready to try to neutralize black people for the final time in the recolonization of Africa and the African minds in the Western diaspora. And in his critical hour, he's trying to his last deadly plan, the same plan that, like Moses said, the plan that you unleash on us is going to send us you to death. In this critical hour, we need to invite the ancestors to guide us. So the first thing we do is we pour the water in the sacred tree of life for the plant. And I'll call out, first we'll go with the gods, then we'll go to the ancestors. I'll call out some African gods, which Jesus being one of those African gods. And then we'll go into some ancestors, and if you have some personal people that went on and died, then you feel free to call those people out. Now, on October 1st, one of my ex-girlfriend's mother, her name was Carol Lorraine Meadows, and I want to dedicate this lecture to her because she's one that's the newest one that transcended over into the other world or the other realm. And so I want to dedicate this lecture to her. And I just got back from New York from her funeral and all, and this sister was a great sister that had a voice like an angel because she was trained in opera and all this type of stuff. And anyway, I want to dedicate the lecture to them. But first we're going to call out some African gods. The first African god we'll say is Jeshua ben Pandera, which means Jesus. And then when I call it out, you go Ashe. Jesus. Ashe. The black African god Osar is known as Osiris. Ashe. Aset, which is Isis, known as it. Ashe. The black goddess Segment, which is a lion-headed goddess, is the same line of Judah that you know in the Bible. Ashe. The goddess in Yoruba religion that is the same as ancient Egyptian religion, we say the goddess Oya, which is also Segment. Ashe. The goddess Obatala, which is the Yoruba religion. The goddess Krishna, which is the blue-black god, another Christ figure in India. The goddess Buddha, which is the blue-black Buddha, with the peppercorn knotty hair curls in there that they worship in Asia, because they had the first black people in Asia, and they also have black Chinese, black Japanese, black Koreans still there to worship there before some of the ancestors. Carol Lorraine Meadows is one of them. It just passed. Ashe. My grandmother, Miss Iris, in 1990. Ashe. My some of yours, anybody have an ancestor?
Sherman Harmon.
Ashe. 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 Anybody else is going to do one for you this traveling. And all we're doing here is showing you things that you do in the same church you go to. This is just another way. If you trace them back to Africa, it would fit right into the same things that we just did. It's just in another form and fashion. But since we are being hit in the head, we start arguing over that, thinking it's some part about the devil and some spooked up stuff, and it doesn't have anything to do with that. If you can't reach back into your own African origin that the white man has been trying to keep away from you, if you can't believe in that, then God help you. You know, if it's so spooked up, why in the devil is he teaching it to you in the school? If there's some devil worship, seem to me, with the white man being the author of what we are not in our degradation, he would put it on us. You understand? Have it to us every day. But most black people don't even know our behind from a whole. And I guess the best place to start is to go all the way back. That way we won't have any problems on what was first, what's this, and where do I fit in? Because we're going to bypass all the stuff that we think is the origin, where we say Adam and Eve, which is 6,000 years ago. We're going to go back about, let's go back to 90,000 years ago. And whenever, how far you going to be, you're going to find out that that black woman and that black man will be staring us in the face. Because we have no origin. And the first place to somebody to pass these out as I go is we're going to start in Kemet. No, here it is. Wrong one. In Kemet, in Egypt, there's a Kemet. There's a temple, the temple of Hathor, the form of Isis, or the form of Aset, in Kemet. This temple was built, and it runs more off or whatever. It was built in the end of Kemet, or the end of Egypt, during the time when the purpose of all knowledge that you know and all religion that you know understood that we were not going to be around but a certain time. So they must put up archetypal structure and architectural structure that would give us the keys to unlock the mysteries when we go across the Atlantic a couple of thousand years later, a couple of hundred years later. Because the priest could prophesy into history 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years old. If that's not true, then burn your Bible, because that's what the prophets of your Bible did. They prophesied into the history. That's when you get your book of Revelation. You understand? You check. We go by that. Well, this is the same thing. This is where that science comes from. In this temple of Dendera, It was built in the later times, but they tore down an older temple. And they tore down this older temple, and they took the bricks and they built this new temple, but the actual inscriptions that what was on the old temple would go on the new temple was in a piece of papyrus, which is an Egyptian paper. That's where you get the word papyrus from, in the wall, and they took the inscriptions and put on the new temple. The inscriptions on that particular temple goes back to 90,000 years ago. Okay, you come on back and pass some of these out right here. And in that particular temple, you have in the top of the ceiling, which when they invaded with Napoleon, blew down in the Louvre in Paris, there's a zodiac. In that particular zodiac, or they would call a planisphere, it represents all of the gods as related to the stars. In that particular zodiac, do you have some more? Okay. All of the gods that's related. The point about that is, all of these stars that represent all of the gods, they represent all of the gods. We take this and we go in the middle of the circle. What is in the middle of the circle is the particular God that gave birth to all of the gods that you know. We can trace this to the Bible. We need to get through these preliminaries to start. You can pass this out. Now, in the middle is a little hippopotamus. If you turn it this way, what I don't know is a hippopotamus, and it is giving birth to all of these stars. That represents the particular God of heaven. Now, what does that mean? This God gives birth to all that what we have. This particular God is represented as the goddess Atlantis, a Thai earth, which means Mother Earth of celestial thing, Atlantis, where you get the word apartment from, which means the spiritual abode or the spiritual womb of the universe. Now, this particular God, Atlantis, a Thai earth, gives the hippopotamus goddess, because in Hemmitt they house all of the science of nature in mythology. And they put it in animals because people change, ideas change, but nature stays the same. So this particular God, what is the hippopotamus? Hippopotamus, number one, it has a big stomach, as you see. It represents a pregnant woman. Number one, the hippopotamus is called a water cow. It comes up out of the water. It symbolizes the womb and birth, primordial waters of noon, or the birth chamber. Now, this particular God, and kick me for not getting the other half of the planisphere. Right beside here, they show a picture of the God of heaven, and we're going to trace this back to yoga. The God of heaven, and right on another picture, they have a picture of a woman stretching out her arms. And she's stretching out her arms, and that represents the God of earth, which is none other than the black woman. Now we're getting a little spooky here. Because is God a man or is God a woman? Well, look, when we talking about the Africans, they had a lot greater knowledge and a lot more sense than everything that you know on this earth plane that creates from a feminine principle. Everything that you know creates from a feminine principle. So therefore, below, which you would have the Enoch would be in the Bible, and they took that book out of the Bible. The book of Enoch would be Tahuti, or the God John the Divine, but you have the Revelations John the Divine, if you trace it, would also be Tahuti. As above, so below. As up under, as on top. As within, as without. That is called the law of correspondence. So if everything on this earth plane that creates is a feminine principle or feminine counterpart, then the celestial heaven that is as above has to be feminine too. We'll get into that. She's giving birth, and I didn't get this other picture, but I'll explain. Giving birth to a little dog in the middle, which is the first blue-black God. Now, let's trace this on into Christianity, Judaism, and Islam to let you know it's all one. The God that you worship, the God is he the God has a mother. He God that you worship. That God such of Samaria is known as El Sada or El Sadi, which means God Almighty. It later on is taken from the Jews and goes back into Egypt or goes into the land that is in part, and it is called El, which means God, and Allah also means not, which means the nothing of space, which is the feminine principle of Asut, the astronomical origin of this particular God, Sut. What does that mean? You have a God on earth, but the origin of this celestial, when we explain this, we talk about the heaven, is in what you would call in science the constellation, which is and this is a common link. You've got to understand this. You've got to plan it. You've been looking for God to see. Now, this particular constellation known as Sirius is known as the dog star. Later on, dog is spelled God, G-O-D, backwards. You see. The dog star. Now, what do they mean by that? Going back by science. What do they call it, the dog star? Number one, the dog star is called the soul of Offset or the soul of Isis, which means the feminine principle, because that particular aspect that you just saw, that particular aspect or that particular hippopotamus goddess is also a part of Isis, which is a later representation. Her soul, which is the feminine principle that gives birth, is called Sirius, which is called the soul of Isis. You understand now? What does this mean when we say the dog star? Well, let's look at a dog. A dog sits in the yard on the front porch, and when danger comes by, the dog barks and warns you what is coming. See, it's real simple. If you teach the people the science and mythology, then your kids can grow up and learn all of the mathematics, trigonometry, geometry, and all of that, because they learn it right in the religion. Now we separate it. And therefore you go to school, and that's why most black people in school have a hard time learning this stuff, because the European had to have this rigid rule of trying to analyze it and stuff, because he could not get the spiritual half by looking at the archetypal figure as we call nature. So now the dog sits and the dog barks and warns you. Same thing, and throughout your life, God warns you. When certain signs and certain times come, as far as cycles, or we would say, when we break that down, we would say certain times of year, the dog does certain different things. That's a warning. That's why they call it the dog star in the constellation of Sirius. Now, the Dogon tribe and the Africans knew where heaven was. And the white boy knows where heaven is, because in his lodge, when you go in the door, he has a picture of a star. He calls it the blazing star. Blazing star. And he knows where heaven is, but he won't tell you, because there's a mystery and a secret behind that. And the secret behind that is, I'll wait till we get a little further and go into this thing. But we can explain some of this as we go on right now. In the history of Kemet and in the history of Egypt, the Greeks invaded and they went in. This is after thousands of years. Now, mind you, that when we have this great place that we call Egypt or Kemet, or Africa as you know it, that only comes on the scene after the black man has started, or the black woman has started declining. You see, despite what they tell you, our civilization goes back millions of years of high technology, higher than anything that you got with this white bulb, this light switch, and these airplanes and all this type of stuff. We're going to get into that. At the time of Kemet, which is the greatest time, the greatest thing that we find on this planet is the decline period, where they had to start recording stuff, because the black man and black woman had fallen from their godhood to the point to what they had to go into the mystery systems, or they had to record things to remember it, to bring them to a higher elevation. You understand? Now, this particular time in Kemet, they went into the Greeks invaded, and they went and said, we want to know the history of Kemet, the history of Egypt. Well, there's a guy, his name is the high priest Manetho, and the high priest Manetho said, well, let me give you the history of Kemet. And he only gave him a brief bit. He didn't give him the whole thing, you see, because to give a person your origin, it can give him a head start on what he needs to do, because he knows your beginning, and he can also know your end, because time is an essence. So he gave him just a little bit. He said we got 500 pharaohs in the dynastic period, which is 3,000 years. We got 800 pharaohs in the pre-dynastic time, which is 8,000 years. So we got somewhere to 10,000 years. Then they asked him, they said, well, what would that happen? Well, shoot. who used to rule before then? Because obviously, if you give a person your origin, they want to know what's before then. Just like you want to know the Adam and Eve story, what is in the beginning? They say, well, who used to rule before then? And the high priest Manetho said, oh, that's when a whole bunch of gods used to rule. A whole bunch of gods used to rule. Stop right there. And what does he mean? Does he mean it's a whole bunch of spook spirit gods or spook spirit type people? Or does he mean the people that is on the planet now used to have another function or another spiritual abode that they used to deal from? What he meant was this. I told you that Hemmitt fell. And at the time, or the black woman and black man fell to a certain time, and then they started recording in history, and this is where you get Egypt. Well, he said, well, when a whole bunch of gods used to rule, what he meant was this. At one time, all black people on the planet was operating at the level of God. Now, that's kind of spooky, but let's go on. What it means is all of our spiritual centers was open, what you call psychic abilities and spiritual abilities, and we could do anything we wanted to on the planet. As we went on into time, went on and on, we fell into what you call the third dimension, which is a physical manifestation that we are on now, because there's the spiritual and the physical, and we fell into the third dimension, and when we fell into the third dimension, our spiritual centers slowly shut down. And then, by us not being able to remember like we used to remember, where we could record all the history in our head, we needed the Egypt or the record keeping to take the man and take him into the mystery school and raise him back up to the level of godhood. This is what happened in the story of Jeshua ben Pandera. Jeshua meaning Jesus is Hebrew for Jesus. Ben is son of, and Pandera is the panther skins that the priesthood wore at that particular time. When he went into the mystery schools as a person just like you and I, and raised himself by the mysteries of so many years of spiritual work and knowledge to the level of godhood. But at one time, when Manetho says that at one time that the black man and black woman was at that level that they didn't even have to go to the level or go into the mystery. We was all radiating at that level of godhood. So that's what it means. Now, let's go into some other things. In order to get your mind right on what I'm talking about, we cannot use this 6,000-year history of the Bible. Never take your history from the Bible. Now, what do I mean by that? There's chronological history that is recorded by black people up to now. Then there's the Bible history, which is not wrong. That's called labial history. That is an illustrated fact it's a history that is revised, or a history that is comprised to tell you or illustrate a religious concept. There's nothing wrong with that. You see what I'm saying? When they say certain things in the Bible in parables, that particular history is to manifest a train of thought. That's called exoteric knowledge. There's an esoteric knowledge that is greater than that. And what does that mean? It means that the Bible records Adam and Eve story, what, some 6,000 of Hemmitt in the right by the Giza Plateau with the two great pyramids, or the three great pyramids, the Sphinx. The last time they carbon dated the Sphinx, it was 18,000 years ago. So right there, that takes the chronology of the Bible and throws it out. But like I said in the last lecture, we're talking about labial history, where you have a history just to illustrate a point. You can't teach a people a religious doctrine talking about a couple of million years ago. That's too long over time. You understand how that goes? So you have to take it and put it in a context and a frame, in a story frame. And in a story frame, we can't talk that. So we're talking about, to throw out that chronology, we got to go back to at least 90,000 years to even understand how the black woman and black man could get hit in the head and be dumbfounded to this day. We go all the way back, and we can go to 90,000 years, or we can go to, that's the time, because the world goes into what we call a 25,000 year history. And out of 25,000 year history, we go into another cycle. We're getting ready to end that cycle very soon. Just trying to get this stuff out of the way before we go into some high things. Get way up there. Now, we go back to 90,000 years. When Plato, which was a Greek scholar that was studying in Hemmitt, he ran up on a sage, a guy called Solomon, which was another Greek, that told him that this Egyptian priest told him of a place called Atlantis that sunk below the Atlantic Ocean, or as we say, Atlantis was one whole part of the earth where all black people lived on one part of the earth before continental drift, where you have the breaking up of the continent. One time the earth was one land mass before continental drift. This would constitute for all of the people, the black Chinese, the black Japanese, and wherever you go in the world, if you trace the origin of those people, you can go right there today and see black people living, I don't care where you go, even in Russia. That meant that the black man covered the entire planet. Until the sinking of Atlantis, where the planet broke continents, we had one people. But we're talking about 90,000 years ago that we're talking about. So now, which was constitute for the Sphinx being 11 years ago. You need to change that? Or you good to go? Okay. Now, going on the blue men or blue women of Atlantis. What does it mean by blue? It means a black person. That's what they mean by the blue men. If you go to India, they have lightened up the blue based on racism. They have lightened up the people, and you have the god Krishna or whatever. There will be a light blue, but that indicates where there used to be this blue black person. Now, what we have is 90,000 years ago, and I want to read you something. White woman by the name of Dion Fortune. And we're going to see just exactly where we are now and why people are going crazy at this particular moment. Now, in this particular thing, it says, bear in mind, however, the sign of Gemini and the forces signified by the sign that influence Atlantis, when it will influence the earth in later and in present time and ages. The stars set in configuration somewhat similar to those who influence the last days of Atlantis. Now, we're talking about some 90,000 years ago. That particular, I have to get this gum out of my mouth so I can really speak. That particular time, some 90,000 years ago, that particular current of the earth is the same type of current that is on the earth right. This is called the spiritual quickening. You understand? That is called the spiritual quickening. Look, we're sitting smack dab in the middle of the war of being played out. You understand? We're right smack dab in the middle of that particular age. Whereas, let's look at this. They say at that particular age, what was in the end, in the beginning, would have reversed itself all the way to what it looked like when the beginning would look like this, and the stuff that was at the end would look like this. Well, let's look at that. The European came into history as a barbarian in the caves. Now, he looks more humane than us because we're killing each other in the streets, and we're doing savage and hideous acts. That means at the end, when you take the first people who walked the planet, I don't care where you go all over the earth, we're at the bottom of the pit out of this particular mess. You understand? Now, at the time of Atlantis, before that you had the time of Lemuria, which was a couple of other million years ago, and then you would have something called the white city of the central sun. I'm going to read some stuff, and then I got a lot of out-of-print books, but I'm going to give you other references that you can go and buy and find out what they're talking about. Now, they talk about the white city of the central sun, or what is the white city of the central sun? Number one, they're saying that the white city of the central sun, placed in the heavens, that particular place in the heavens is the highest of all spiritual abodes, which you would call heaven, where God resides. That particular place is what is responsible for giving life to this planet, in particular, as above what was the gods up there, are the particular gods that first seeded the planet. Number one, the people in Atlantis was nothing but people, or Lemuria was nothing but blue-black people like us. Now, the white city of the central sun. What is the central sun? Our sun, our earth goes around the sun every 365 days, which is a year. Our sun goes around a greater sun, or a central sun called Sirius every 26 or 25 to 26,000 years. And at the end of those 26,000 years, that is called a great year. Or as the Christians would say, the end of the world, which is a great year is actually not the end of a world, but the end of an eon, going into another eon. You understand? 26,000 years. That particular central sun, the white city of the central sun, well, Christ is known as light. Or the great white brotherhood is not talking about white people, it's talking about light. I got a little light and I'm going to shine. And that particular light that he dwells in, that abode, is called the white or light city of the central sun. Let's read what this white city of the central sun is. The white city of the central sun is called the Billy Ox Campus. It is the most mysterious place of all of the universe. It is a city, La Grande Tarot, which means African. A city that has its oracle of the god Aleba. Aleba is a god, an African god in Africa, or in the Yoruba religion that you would have in Nigeria. It says, which you can trace that all the way back to Hemmitt and get the Egyptian deity, because it's all one. Now, it says, magical city of the god Aleba. It possesses one day, Sunday. It exists only in one form, the family of the sun. Who's the family of the sun? Africans are the family of the sun. What do they call the Egyptians? The children of the sun. Now, what are they saying? What are these white people saying? They're saying that the Most High, that we talk about throughout history, that every God that you look at, that we can trace to this day, is the black God, Buddha, black God, Krishna, the black God, Jesus, the black God, Afet, the black God, Osar, the black God, Heru, all of these gods. You can get the book Godfrey Higgins, Sir Godfrey Higgins, and Calypso, 2 volume sets. So when I trace all the gods back, from Buddha to Krishna to Jesus, they all come up black. They would have to, because of the science behind that. We're going to get into the science today. It says that the particular city of the central sun, this spiritual abode that we call Sirius, the actual people of that exist on this earth in one form, the African family. Some deep stuff, but like I said, the white boy and the Masons, they know this. They know it. And like I said before, if you go to the George Washington Masonic Memorial in Alexandria, Virginia, Virginia, you will see, and it's patterned after the Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt. If you go there, they have the Masonic Memorial. They have the York right on one floor, the Grotto right on one floor, the Scottish right on one floor, and all these particular lodges. When you get to the top, it's got white people reaching their hand in the air, and in the air, God comes down, and there's one big black hand coming down to meet them. Now, you can call me a racist. You can call me crazy. You can say what you want to say, but obviously the white man knows something to put in his mason. Now, now, first of all, let's look at this. We're talking about the father of his country, Master Mason 33rd degree, George Washington. A memorial that is built for him. And at the top, when you go through all of the tour, and you get on the top floor, they got this big black hand coming down out of heaven that represents God. And these white people reaching up. Now, you don't sit up here and tell me that everybody is everybody, but even the whitest of white people that won't let you in their lodge, when they go into this temple, they actually show this black hand. We got to have a bad misconception of ourselves. And that's the key to this whole thing, is we don't know who we are. We have been hit in the head. The whole Hiram Abill thing, if you're a Mason and you know what I'm talking about, Mr. Boyd. Now, this particular, you can go there and see it. Don't go over with a group of people. Go like 1 or 2 people, and you can get up on the floor and see it. You go with a group of black people, they'll tell you something like, oh, that floor is that floor is under construction or something like that. We went with a group of black people and they wouldn't let us in, but we jumped in with a camera, and one of my boys took the picture. And I got to locate that picture because I want to show you this. But if you get the actual pamphlet, you can actually still, it's a smaller picture, but you can actually see the black hand coming down. You know. Now, so they know what's going on. And this is the reason why they got to try to isolate you and try to neutralize you, because your own existence your own rise mean their fall. And this is just the plain truth. And all the sources that I document for you today, you can call me a racist or whatever, I'm coming from white people. You see, that's what we got to do. We got to go to the white man to validate that because, like I say, little Muhammad said that you didn't want to believe that. Well, let's go on into this stuff. Now, you have the Kaaba, which is in ancient Arabia. The Kaaba, which is the stone that comes from Ethiopia, means the Ka, which is the vessel of the body, and the Ba, which means the soul. That's what it means, the Kaaba. This is the Ka. And on the inside is the soul. But listen. Just listen to what that says. If the soul, if the Ka is represented as a black stone, and the soul is represented also as a black stone, then we're talking about that the actual body of God. I know this is hard to swallow, but the actual body of God is that of the triple blackness of space. And I'll try to bring it all home in a few minutes. Now, the center of our solar system and the center of 11 other solar systems, the particular center of this universe is called, that central sun, which is called Sirius. It has 11 stars around it. No, it has 7 stars around it. Now, let's break this down again in science. If you know science, you have a sun. Then you have planets. The sun is the life force of the planets. And on the planets, just like this, you would have either life form. If it was to exist, it would exist on the planet. It would not exist on the sun. Outside of this solar system, most of the stars that you see are not, most of the stars you see are actually suns and not planets. You only see the planets in this solar system. You understand? Now, this particular star system, Sirius, is the chief star or the head of the interplanetary solar system. It's the chief star. Now, Muhammad, as well as the scientists tell you, if you turn on your TV every night with the X-Files, the last year it was science. They tell you that there's other life forms in the universe. But Muhammad said that the black woman and black man was the most superior. And I said, now wait a minute, now hold on. You done gone fool now. You gonna tell me, now wait a minute, now hold on. Now I get with all of the stuff you talking about. That's good therapeutically for a black man to believe and a black woman to believe in themselves. But now you done gone crazy. You talking about a big vast universe. And you gonna tell me that we are the gods of the universe? Wait a minute, now that's kind of crazy. But there are other life forms. But we know that the gods that we know of in history, that we know of that we can put the fingers on, have all been black. Trace your history. The white man don't even deny that. Now, number one, let's get this word gods out, because I know that scares a lot of you with this whole polytheistic thing. What do you mean by a polytheistic thing? Polytheistic thing means a multiplicity of gods. But the Bible says thou shalt not worship but one God or the God one, right? No other God before me. Well, what it meant in Africa was everything in nature. So you had different principles of God, or different attributes of the God one. You understand? So when you see all those different gods in Hemmitt or Egypt, it was not a polytheistic religion, which means many gods. It was the different principles of the one God. In Islam, if you go back to Christianity, they say God is everywhere, represented a part of nature. When you put together like force, it represented one God. Now go back to this point. Now follow me. God was one of the blue black gods. Now let's understand this. If we got a celestial body of stars, and that celestial body of stars, and they have planets on those stars, and those planets can live in the stars. We'll go into that. Which has 7 planets, then the people that live on those planets around the central star would be the gods of... Now, those particular gods that you trace them back that we go on to, and when we know of, for all black people on the earth sphere. You see what I'm saying? That particular God was the God of the universe. He meant that. Now we'll get into the esoteric meaning of what is. Now we know that we talk about the same religion. When you look at the same, you can't have a false religion when they talk about the particular star, which means heaven. And they would talk about the particular star, and they mean heaven from. It says that this is the God who moves the weeping and the laughter. This is the God who has created both male and female from one single ejaculated semen. This is the God that will make all things anew, because all things, you go into the Quran. or the higher degrees. Because they're telling you the people, all the masters of the people, including the masters of white people, and you don't understand, but he knows the knowledge. Is it Bill Clinton? No, it's the secret societies that run the lodges and the families. It's all based on masonry and based on international bankers and people with big time cash that understand what time it is because they got it. Come on. Now, let's go into some things because the last time, what's that, brother?
Okay, in the country, wouldn't that just be big business in itself?
That's a part of it. That's a part of it. Your Coca-Cola, but there's even families on top of the big businesses, your Vanderbilts, your DuPonts, your Rockefellers, your Rothschilds of England. You understand? Well, it's all business and international, it's big businesses also too, which is called what? The market of the beast in the later days was government, and governments are headed and financed by what? Big businesses. That's the key. Get the book, Behold the Pale Hearts and all that, and you know, it goes into the whole New World Order thing. They got a whole display of New World Order books right here that you can get right here in Chattanooga. You got one of the biggest ones in the Southeast now when I look at all the combination of the books you got. Now, last time I was here, we got in, well, brother, let me go on with that. We're going to have a question and answer and all, but we got a lot to cover. Okay? We got a lot to cover. Now, because even that is not important compared to what they're going to do to us, which, remember, they've already done it to us in the, for the last 500 years. But I believe, and I know for a fact, that they're going to try to do it, they're not going to succeed because this is the last straw. That's why they get their behinds kicked in Somalia and in Haiti too. Now, let's go into this. Last time I got into a heated discussion when I went on this stuff about this white boy. Well, let's go into a little bit of history of this white boy. Number one in your Bible, it is called, and my man looked at this, it is also called, when you look at the word leprosy, in linguistic terms, it is talking about this European. Now, let's trace this thing back in history. Let's go into this mutant right quick. Now, in history, or in science, you have the theory, which is the theory, or the theoretical theory, that stands as the basis of your knowledge until you find the anthropological or the archaeological evidence. Well, we got three theories that the white people go by and black people go by. Two theories. You have the Sheikh and the Diop theory that is talking about a European that went into the Ice Age, a black person that went into the Ice Age from Africa and mutated into what you would call white people, based on climate adaptability. That's one theory. The other theory is the Yaqub theory of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that we just totally just laughed at. Now, going back to archaeological evidence. Now, let's look at this. We all agree. Let's take the basis of this. We all agree that all the education that we have comes from Africa and Kemet. Everybody agrees with that. That's common fact. We understand that the actual priest had 360 degrees of knowledge, that the knowledge that we deal on is about this much of knowledge. And the white boy does pretty good with it. Just imagine if he had the whole 360 degrees of knowledge. It'd be like scrambled eggs. We could never get him off the planet. He had much knowledge, but we understand the knowledge that comes from, that the European is basing on, and we go on all these universities trying to learn this much, from his this much, it comes from the 300 Atlantis, or the black man's knowledge. That's what your Thayers and Masonry represent, the 360 degrees of knowledge. We got 33 now, which is freezing on the Fahrenheit scale. Now, if we agree with that, and we have the Yaqub theory, and we have the Diop theory, let's go back to Kemet and try to understand, because believe me, if they are the authors of knowledge, then they should know something about what went on. Now, let's go into this. In the temple of Seti I, which is in Abydos, which is the first holy land in Kemet, a couple of thousand years before you have Jerusalem, but that's a holy land too. Any place that the people declare the sacred land is a holy land. But you have Abydos, Kemet, which is the first holy land of this 25,000-year cycle. In there you have the temple of Seti I. The temple of Seti I was built by Ramesses II, which is the one you know of as the great Ramesses that you got your biblical Ramesses. You know, which supposedly had drowned in the Red Sea, but they got his doggone body. Right now it's been traveled all over Europe because they're doing all this science, but they built a doggone temple, Abbey Simbel, where you have the temple of Ramesses. And he lived for 69 years, no, 96 years. And that's recorded history from his birth to his death. But yet he's supposed to drown in the Red Sea. Labial history. You don't get into the actual history of it. You get into the mythological and the scientific part of the story. It represents a god or represents some type of religious transmission of thought. Check. We're not babies anymore listening to fairy tales. Now, in the temple of Seti I was built for Ramesses the First, for Ramesses the Second, when Ramesses the Second was 22 or 23 years old. His father died and he built this temple. And different, and all the Ramesside kings that later on came, all the way up to Ramesses the Fifth, was buried in a place called Biblium El Manuk in Abydos. Now, you can get some documents on that from Sheikh Diop's book on African origins, myth and reality, African origins of civilization. Look up the Tamahu and look up Champolion's work and try to understand what went on with Champollion, who translated hieroglyphics, went into Kemet and was upset about what he saw when it came to his own race. Now, in that particular temple, there's 4 races of men. 4 races of men. I didn't bring a picture, but look, listen. One of the men from West Africa is called the Nesbi or the Nazi, which means the blue-black African, which is one of the ancient of all men. The other one is an East African ranging from blue-black to probably my color, which is called the Ruti, which is your Egyptians. The Ruti. The Nesbi is the West African, and the Ruti is the East African. Okay? Which are the most ancient of men. Then you have the Hemmitt, which is a Semitic, but not the same Semitic that you have now in the Middle East, which is doggone European now, after amalgamation or miscegenation or race mixing. You have the Hemmitt, which would be something like a light-skinned black person, or a lot of which you would call them, but just a black person. Those are the three races of men, which all the other races, your Chinese and all your black-haired people around the world come from. But notice now, black-haired people, Chinese, Indians from Indians, Native Americans, all your other people. Then the other man they have is called the Tamahu. Tama meaning created. Hu meaning white, light, and bright. And it says the created white people. At the bottom of the temple, it says that the Ruti, which is the East African Egyptian, and the Nesbi, which is the West African Egyptian, created the Tamahu. But the Ruti and the Nesbi were the most ancient of people, right on the temple walls. It's funny about the temple, because in the early 1800s when you traveled to Kemet, it was a full temple, nothing eroded. Now you go and you can see where they tore the temple down and rebuild it again. You see? Taking stuff and carving it out of history. But those particular vast release of Biblium El Manuk, you can, they talk about some of those right in the book Sheikh Diop's book. And also James Brunson, that quotes Gerald Massey's book at the beginning, page 22, which Gerald Massey walked into the British Museum and got it off the papyrus. He quotes that in the book Egypt Revisited and the Golden Age of the Moors. There's a part with James Brunson. No, I think it's Wayne Chandler. Wayne Chandler quotes that actual Ruti or the Tamahu being the created white people. Check. Get the documented facts on that. Now, what happened? What happened? Well, how did this thing go? How did you create something? Well, like I was explaining earlier, you ever see a rat in your house and running around, that rat you're going to see going to be a gray rat. That's a natural rat. Or you see a rabbit outside that's running around, you're going to see a brown rabbit over his brown rabbit. You ain't going to never see no white rat in your house. You ain't going to never see no white rabbit on the outside, not unless in nature, not unless they got out of a cage somewhere. But if you go in the lab, you always see them testing these white rats. Check?
Check.
Or you go in the lab, they're testing these white rabbits, so you can go to the animal store and buy a white rabbit or a white rat. Those rats, the European understands when he's making medicine, he's taking medicine for himself. He's making medicine not for you. He's making medicine for himself because he understands that not all people are alike. He understands that. He understands that I'm biologically different than the black man. And if I'm biologically different than the black man, and the black man being the ancient of men, that means I got to be something other than the black man. I got to be the dialectical opposite of the black man. Now, how does this explain to other races? Going back to the climate adaptability. This is the key. The climate adaptability is you have all your other dark-haired people They adapted in the climate based on the weather. But the European didn't. The European was made based on what your ancient Egyptians said. Well, the whole thing is not a debate on whether you're going to debate me. Argue with the ancient Egyptians. I'm just putting the science out there. That's all we're doing. I'm not trying to get you to believe in anything. Don't challenge everything I say. Don't never take anything a black man comes to you or anybody come to you and try to tell you. You're supposed to challenge everything. But we're talking about, we're not dumb anymore when we're dealing with the scholarship. We're dealing with the scholarship. That's climate adaptability based on those other dark-haired people. But that blonde-haired people is a mutant. And in science, you have the albino dominant. That's a black person with the piece of hair. You see them, it's got the same melanin that curls that hair, which is the molecular structure of the universe and the DNA pattern, the mitochondrial DNA, which is the good stuff. It curls that hair instead of that bad hair. It's the good stuff, and the other stuff that's almost straight is a little mutated form of that, but there's not no such thing as good and bad hair anyway, because we even have straight hair in Africa. But we talking about the most ancient of hairs, that curly, perfect spiral coil is the same as the DNA pattern in the body and goes in the universe, goes in a spiral, and all of the planets. That's what you got. This is why you are the microcosm of the macrocosm, as above, so below. If there's God up here, you're a God down here. Now, that particular white-haired person on the earth is a mutant. You have the albino dominant, which is the same nappy hair, same wide lips. Then you have the albino recessive. The albino dominant can have another black person. The albino recessive is mated with an albino recessive can have nothing but an albino recessive. That's what you get with the whole white rat and white rabbit thing. Genetic mutation. How did that go on? We went in Africa, we went by a strict code of law where we had sex to procreate with the science of mating to create God. No such thing as mental retardation and people is dumb. And all this crazy stuff. There's really no such thing as a dumb child. Everybody can learn it. The African system just brought it all out. You understand what I'm saying? And if you notice something, if a person is dumb, why did they put a lot of people, they put them in the low section in the first grade in the first place? Or in kindergarten, put them in the low section, and they remain low all their life. They put some people in the high section. You can take the dumbest person you think and put him in and say, you smart. He'll actually think he's smart and will actually raise himself up to be smart. That's the science. Hold on, let me just get through with some of this here. You just hold that point there. Now, the actual part is, they understood the science of mating. You have in you the 7 seals, which is in the Bible, 7 spiritual centers, which are called the chakras. You have the higher chakras, and you have the lower chakras. The lower chakras is your beastly nature or the low nature of man. The highest chakras are your spiritual chakras, which the highest chakra is called the crown chakra or the Christ consciousness, that you can all raise to the level of Christ. Because the Bible says, ye are gods, and Christ says, be as me. Now act like me, be as me. Raise yourself to the Christhood. That's the all in Christian science. You're dumb enough to not go along with it. Now, these highest chakras of, you can take now, in Africa, you have what you call sexual tantra, where you can take your semen and raise it up, called ejaculation in science, and raise it up to the highest chakras, and raise it back down, and that comes out, you would create a God. Or you can take it and raise it down to the lower chakras, and come back up and create what you would call a beast or a graphic mutated devil based on these lower chakras. That's called sex tantra. We had a strict code of law that we did things, but what happened was the black man lost the history of time, because time is everything. Because if you find out when you got on the planet, you'll know how to go when you're on the planet, on to the point you can keep your godhood. But by us losing history of time and losing certain practices and doing it the wrong way, we started creating this race of mutants. And because they couldn't live in Africa, we drove them off into the caves. You know, if that white man came out of climate adaptability, well, the white people said, yeah, don't live in the snow. And you won't see him turning into some doggone mutant. That's called sexual tantra. You know, sexual tantra. Later on, they recorded in the Bible as leprosy also, too. Now, that's the key that we want to get into. Now, that's this particular mutant, which is a graphic or another form of a human being, mankind, we want to put it that way, because human means color. You understand? We take the origin of these words. Now, this particular Cameroon, it has a tiny pineal bone or the pineal gland that secretes melanin, which is the life-giving fluid. That particular stuff on the European is calcified. Now, some people say, well, why is it necessary for you to talk about the European? I gotta stress that these different types of people to understand what you are. Because when I get into the other phase, I'm going to show you just exactly what you are. And we have to identify two different types of people. Now, this particular pineal gland that secretes melatonin and serotonin. Melatonin at 4 o'clock in the morning and serotonin at 12 o'clock in the day, which is the same life forces in the universe. And it secretes this stuff. And it gives you this black stuff that gives you life. It gives you the Christ mind. This is why all your gods would be black. His particular pineal gland is calcified. Or atrophied or calcified. And all too. Now, Hitler, we're going down into Masonry to understand what this whole Masonry thing is. And we can take a question and answer on this European some more. I don't want to dwell on that much. Now, Hitler's goal was to create the ultimate white race by mixing the same type of stuff together. You know, and actually when he said he wanted to create the ultimate mutant. Now, what happened in the 1800s after the Europeans went into Hemmitt and carted back all of this science and put it in the British Museum, the Louvre in Paris, and all kind of museums all across Russia, and also the University of Chicago Oriental Institute of University of Chicago under the behest of Rockefeller, who funded it. They found out one thing in Masonry, and this has been the key to the whole Masonry. Number one, by us being a different life force or something less than the original form, and based on the earth taking a life cycle that cleans off all impurities or all unoriginal cancerous forms, then some way in our Masonry we must somehow obtain a greater powers of high spirituality in our Masonry. That is called the great works when we get into this now. That is called the great works. Now, Hitler did it. You had the Moors who ruled Spain. When these Moors ruled Spain, they understood by prophecy again that they, after 700 years or so much, they were going to fall. And the European was going to retake Spain, and because of the knowledge that they opened up 16 universities in Europe, that the European would rule the world. But they put a white person, on a certain spiritual level called Saint Germain. And his goal was to lift Europeans up who wanted to be lifted up in the Western Hemisphere. His goal was to lift them up to a spiritual level. That's Saint Germain and all. Now, they did this before they failed, and this particular Saint Germain came on the scene. In the early 20th century, you had yogi masters from all over the world. Sufi masters, yogi masters, and these high spiritual masters, which would be nothing but the same people that would be the high priests of the mystery system of that day. You have the yogi masters, they all came to the West, Europe and America, to raise white people up to a certain spiritual level. Well, why do this? Black people, now let's look at this now. Here's a black man from India, which Vera Gandhi said in 1979 that we are a black nation. Here's a black man from India that's got untouchables right here in India that they're stepping on. And they got the most hideous forms of that, and you got people in Arabia, blue-black people, 85% of the Arabian people is stepping on, and this Sufi master would lead the people that need the help and will go over to the Europeans. In the Western Hemisphere, let's just take America. We got us on the bottom. We got the European on top. But the yoga master going to go and help the European and not help us? That's something wrong. Now let's understood that we didn't need no help. The European needed help because his time was limited on the planet. And as Albert Einstein said in 1914, he had a time continuum because we weren't ready yet, and it was not enough grace period because he went into Hemmitt only a few years before and got the science out to save himself, so they gave him a grace period up to now. This is the key. To save himself. So these yoga masters and all these people came, and this way you got this Theosophical Society with Maine Blavatsky, who the actual knowledge of the Theosophical Society and the Western esoteric forms that we have today was all started by a black man by the name of H.P. Randolph, who traveled with Abraham Lincoln, who was a spiritual master, he taught all these white people all this spiritual stuff. And then when they got on their feet, they tried to shut him down, saying he didn't give them this stuff. H.P. Randolph want to document that in history. But he has a book out called Sex and Magic, which ain't talking about no spook stuff. It's talking about the reproductive system and how you can obtain a spiritual way of spiritual crisis through your own sexual stuff. That's a sex tantra. Now, a sex tantra, they call it. Now, they came over and you had the Theosophical Society, they had all these people. Now, this is the key. The Theosophical Society, under the main blavatsky that you have Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter, these Masons, all they did was talk about meditation and all this spiritual thing, but they didn't get into the actual practical application. Then you had the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn that came out of that, which you have this great man by the name of Aleister Crowley, white boy, that came out of that too. And his thing is, the doggone Theosophical Society, let's go and take these same Egyptian rituals, and through rituals try to raise ourselves up to this spiritual awareness. Now, he goes through this society and he gets all this stuff. This is going on in Mason. We're trying to show you what they're keeping from you because it's real key and crucial that you understand it. So now they going on in Masonry, and he enters into this Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, get all the stuff and raise himself up, and he go all over the world with Superman, and he learn all this stuff. So he goes to Egypt. He and his wife, Rose, I forgot her last name. Well, Rose Crawley, but anyway, he goes to Egypt. He's only 20, I think he's only 22 or 23 years old. He goes to Egypt. His wife goes into trance. When she goes into trance, she kept saying, they know who you are. It's a documented here. You can get the book, The Confessions of Aleister Crowley. Now, they know who you are. They know who you are. And she kept going into trance. So the next morning, he got up and took her to the Cairo Museum to try to find out, because he knew it was something spiritual that was going on. He's in the black man's land of Egypt. He want to understand what's making contact with his wife that's going to make contact with him. And she goes, and she shows him this Stella. Now, Stella is that white thing that you see that's over the window right there. That's a Stella. You see the thing, you see the two black statues in the middle, you see this Stella. That's a Stella. It's a slab or a slate. It's hieroglyphic writing, and it has this particular picture of a scene that's going on. And she said, and I got a color picture of it, I want to show you something. You can pass this around. She said, that, honey, is the thing that tried to come to me. And when he saw this, he looked at the Stella, and you have the god Horus, which is the forerunner of Christ, which is the historical Jesus. You have a priest with the panther skins. Remember I said Jeshua ben Pandera and the panther skins that he wore, the same Jesus? You have a priest right here that's actually trying to contact him. And this particular Stella, and on it has hieroglyphics on the back of it. This is the Stella. Egyptologist in 1960, he died in 1966, I think, that was coming and trying to give him, you could pass that round. If you look real close, there's a man. Even some of the pictures in Egypt, you don't see, but he's clear to see a black man. So he later on gets in touch with this, and we just show him that picture there, and I'll don't worry about the other stuff, just pass it on. He later on gets in touch with them, and I'm going to explain this story to you. And he gets in touch with this person, and this particular cog down by the name of Awaz, Awaz. Just show him,